I'm Sean Sawyer. I have been a psychotherapist for 22 years. I got into trading in 2017. Well, the first trades I ever did was when weed stocks hit the OTC market. I kind of just thought it was hilarious that they were selling. I mean, at the time, it was just such a new thing, that they were selling marijuana on the stock on the stock market essentially. So it sparked my attention, no pun intended, and it all kind of grew from there. I was in a career, a therapist. You do well. It's not the most lucrative career, and I saw colleagues of mine that were in their 50s and their 60s and were still renting and just not in great shape financially. And I was like, I probably need to do something else to make the life I want, and it that happened to coincide with that time. So, anyways, that's how I got started. I quit my job. I opened up a private practice. I was working for a university, and I built my private practice around when I could trade. I started scheduling people mostly after 4 o'clock. I'd schedule them during, between like 11:30 and 1:30 Eastern, when the market was slow. Plus, it would keep me away, help me develop a little bit of discipline there. And then I was trading along. I had, my first profitable year, and then some things happened in life, kind of went sideways, and I just traded on tilt like a lunatic, and lost a bunch of money, and was like, "What the hell am I doing?" Started to look at trading psychology a little bit, and was like, "Wait a second, why on earth aren't I applying everything I've been doing the last, at the time, 15 years or whatever, and get out there and do this." So I did, and that has led me here. It's been an interesting few years getting into this business, and I had done performance psychology in the early, or in about 2010, but it was for executive types, like performance, like whatever, public speaking stuff, whatever. And now, then I get into stuff with athletes. I get into stuff with musicians, and that became a big thing. Classical musicians and performance is a big issue. And then, again, now years later, I find myself in trading, and I'm like, all right, let's freaking do this. So, what I want to talk about today, as it says there on the intro, is what I call modern trading psychology, and it's basically because most trading psychology, in fact, I really can only think of a couple exceptions, is based on what they call the second wave of behaviorism, and what that means is a steaming pile of shit we know doesn't work very well anymore. And if you were competent at all, you stopped doing it in like the 90s. But a lot of people haven't stopped, won't stop, and there's still dinosaurs in grad schools all over the country teaching arcane psychology we know actually makes people worse in the long run. And that's the stuff we were doing in the 80s and 90s for the most part. So you don't want that. And almost everything out there, the classic books, all that stuff, are a lot of them are based on that. Not that they're bad necessarily in there entirely, but they contain a really fundamental flaw, a couple of really fundamental flaws. And not because they weren't good at what they did, or I'm not trying to, smack them down. They only could know what they knew at the time. But those books that are written back then are missing some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. And if you can integrate these things, there's not a lot of trading psychology out there that's doing this. There is some. There's the Andrew Menekers of the world, who's awesome, and there's Denise Shull, who's awesome, and then there's kind of the rest. And there's a few others, good ones too, don't get me wrong. But anyways, those are the ones that do have some of the more modern techniques involved, pardon me, and take into consideration things that a lot of trading psychology doesn't, and this, which happens to be a lot of things that keep people stuck. So this will make more sense in a minute. What I want to talk about overall is or start with is fundamentals. Trading psychology, just like trading, has fundamentals that you need to learn. And for psychology, it's called evolutionary psychology. And the thing that, if you come away with anything tonight, the thing should be that I need to focus more on my nervous system than I need to focus on anything else. I need to focus on keeping my nervous system in the most ideal state, doing things that increase the probability of staying in what they call a parasympathetic state. For those in the know, that's a certain state in your autonomic nervous system, which is a more calm state, versus arguably the only human instincts that exist: fight, flight, or freeze. Again, arguably, but when you're in fight, flight, or freeze, you're screwed. I sent out a survey, which thank you, by the way, for all those that filled out the survey. Thank you for, also, shout out, Stevie, are you here? I already did this, but shout out to Stevie for being, there you are, what's up, for being a long-time supporter on Twitter. But anyways, I asked you guys these questions, this survey, and, I asked you about, which things are the worst? Is it FOMO? Is it, taking profits too early? Is it chasing? What's going on? And you guys gave me some really good information. Mostly the information I was looking for was how many people in this room responded, to be honest with you. How serious is this bunch about trading psychology? Because the vast majority of people fail at trading. We know that. I don't know that it's 90% or 99%. I think those are BS stats that people tweet out to scare you into buying their shit. But it's not great. I think it's in like the low 70s as far as different numbers that I've heard. So anyways, not easy. And that is because most people aren't willing to do this work. And just by being different in this regard, if you take some of this model that I gave you today and start applying it, you have edge based on the fact that you're one of the few traders that'll pick up a finger to manage their mindset actively intraday. Mindset's a verb. You don't just have a good one or not. Like, you have to keep yourself engaged. It takes work, and it also takes disengaging intentionally as much as it takes intentionally engaging. And that's so that, in that disengagement is so that you can engage effectively and engage rested, and bring your best self to the table. And the reason, by the way, I'm gonna put main chat on my screen, and if you guys have questions, feel free to pop a question and just tag me at any time during this conversation. And this is being recorded. Make sure I got the recording on. I do. Okay. So back to where I started with this 5 minutes ago was I was asking about FOMO and all that stuff, and none of it. It doesn't matter if it's FOMO, if it's chasing, if it's revenge trading. It's all the same problem, broadly speaking. In terms of this group intervention that we're doing tonight, and this model to take a look at, it all comes from the same thing. It all comes from being dysregulated and being in fight, flight, or freeze, because fight, flight, or freeze is what it says. It's about, it puts you in survival mode, and survival mode is when impulse takes over, and impulse should take over. That's the way the body works. That's how we were designed. It's amazing. You need fight, flight, or freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze is why you're alive right now. Without a doubt, it's the number one reason why you're alive. And it's probably the number one reason, if you're not profitable, that you're not profitable. So how's that for a paradox? It's why you're alive, and it's why you're broke now. I think you get the point. Is this making sense so far? If anyone's unclear, say it's unclear, or say I got a question. Do not hesitate. Do not listen if you're feeling confused. I'm big on the interactive part of this. I know you guys don't think you have access to voice in here, but make sure you put something in chat. All right. So the reason that this is relevant is because of the things that our ancestors all held in common that we all have traits of that are a real problem. Now, we survived for three main reasons. Our ancestors survived for three main reasons. I'm talking, hunting, gathering. I'm talking, whatever was right before Homo sapiens and turned into that and all that stuff. And the three things does anyone know what the three things were that all of our ancestors had in common that made them survive? Do you guys know that by any chance? Does someone know that? I'd love to see that pop up in chat. There are three traits that is most linked with why our ancestors survived. Okay. First trait, greed. Second trait, social influence. Socially influenced. The most socially influenced, the greediest. Anyone know the third? If you think about it, the reason that we need greed, the reason that we need to be worried about what other people think, the reason we need to worry in general. Oh, sorry, that's the third one, is worry. The third one is worry. The best worriers, not warriors, worriers. The most socially influenced, meaning conform to the crowd. And the greediest, most kids, most tools, stockpiling stuff, whatever. That's who survived. How do you feel that those three things work out for traders? They are pretty problematic, no? So fighting it is pointless. Fighting greed's a terrible idea. Use your greed. You just have to know you're feeling greed and work it in your favor. Because that's why you're here. That's why your ancestors survived. So why not? Why fight it? Worry. Worry is a type of anxiety. Worry is imagining a scenario about the future, such as, how do you, achieve some goal, pay a bill, study for a test, whatever. There's some thing in the future, you make up a story about it, you get upset about it, and then you suffer because of this thing you completely just made up in your head. You made up a story, and you're taking it true like it's a fact, and it's bothering you. Now, that, evolutionarily speaking, was useful because the person who remembered where alligators most likely pop out of the pond and eat you, or where the bears hang out for berries, or where the villagers in the enemy village like to hang out, like, you needed to worry to survive. Anxiety is why you drive on the right side of the road. Anxiety is why you don't stub your toe constantly. Anxiety is an absolutely necessary human trait. Excuse me, like functional human trait. It has this bad rap, but we need it. But our ancestors were really, really good at it. So you get this, creaming process where the most anxious are coming to the top, and that's who's surviving. So this is who we've got. So we've got greed, we've got anxiety, and then we've got social influence. Everyone out there likes to say that Twitter doesn't influence them, or FinTwit doesn't influence them. Bullshit. Or whatever you read, whether it's a Bill O'Neill book or a Kobe Bryant book or whatever, like, BS stuff doesn't influence you. It does. It's fine. You just have to know what's influencing you. You have to be able to differentiate yourself and your opinions and your thoughts from the thoughts of others. and the opinions of others. You can be influenced. You just have to know it, and you have to be able to, you know, recognize that, okay, I have this belief, but so and so is making me believe this even more. Or this is giving me hopium, or whatever it is. So social influence. Oh, and by the way, the reason you needed that for survival was because you couldn't be a rugged individualist and live. You needed to be with the pack, or else you would die. So you can't be, you know, the asshole. You're gonna die. You have to subjugate yourself to other people around you. So that's why that one's useful. All right. Am you guys with me? I usually do this a little differently where people are talking. So give me something in chat. Give me a thumbs up to with me if it's confusing. Someone speak up. All right. I know you hear me. I'm just, I'm saying a lot of stuff. Just want to make sure it's hitting proper. All right. So, if you accept this reality, if you accept this history that we have, are you actively working on it to deal with how it ruins your trading? We are perfectly not wired well for trading. All this, those three things alone are a problem, let alone, growing up, let alone, surviving life and all the stuff that comes with it. Sometimes it's not easy. And we have to work. We're so willing to put time into charts, stare at charts and all this stuff, and hopefully make a thesis both directions, not just one direction. But anyways, we're so willing to do that. But are you willing to go to the grocery store and pick the longest line on purpose and pay attention to the fact you've picked the longest line on purpose and watch as other aisles open up and the light goes on and people scramble in? You do not scramble. You stay in the longest damn line. You watch as people that got into line behind or, later than you in different lines as they leave the store earlier. If you're willing to be that person and sit in that discomfort, that's, by the way, that's an exercise for practicing patience, and I highly recommend it. If you're willing to be that person, you've got an edge so many traders don't have. I would comfortably say upwards of 95% of traders don't have. If you're willing to do that shit alone, let alone put it together in a cohesive model where you're stretching yourself and you're using your this knowledge to your advantage versus, using this knowledge to your advantage. You're going to be off the bell curve. It's edge in of itself. Because you're more patient than the next guy. Because most people won't do that. Or they'll even cave when they're practicing it. Or they'll do it once and tweet about it. And then never do it again or whatever. What I'm going to throw into chat, oops, I got to check chat, is there's a PDF you guys can have. I'm just going to use this as sort of my oops, I put a shit. Okay. Just making sure whatever was on the screen there was okay to have on the screen. So open up that PDF. If someone wants, I can turn it into a JPEG and put it in the chat too. But this is one of my answers to the problems. Now, before I get too far into that, I actually want to let me see something. Oop, I forgot to add something to this set of slides. You guys talk Enneagram in here. So, oh man, I wish I had this slide. Let me give you another PDF. So here's another one. I use a model it's based on what are called maladaptive schemas. It's very, very similar to Enneagrams. there's 18 of them. Everyone's got some. It's 18 times 3 different coping styles, so it's a little more. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know much enough about enneagrams. I don't know if it's more nuanced or not, but I think it is. There's a type of therapy based on it. Not saying it's better or worse, whatever. Just this is the way. This is kind of the language of my model, and understanding. So aside from fight, flight, and freeze, and all that stuff I'm going on about in evolutionary psychology, you want to identify your schemas, your maladaptive schemas. Like I said, everyone's got them. It's basically a fancy word for an issue. I mean, you hear things like, "Oh, you got abandonment issues." Well, that's a schema. That's a maladaptive schema. And if you have it, you might be, you might date cold, aloof people because you're stuck on repeat. You might, be terrified or controlling or a prick or scared when your partner is 10 minutes late. You think they're dead or cheating or something. I'm using some extremes. But with that schema, someone tell me what common trading psychology error you're going to experience more often if you have that abandonment schema I just described. What do you think? Anybody got a guess? Do I have a no sound? Oh no, there's no soundboard in these. Anyone got a guess? I'm going to give you 10 seconds. I see Rising is typing. I feel it. Blair got it. Blair got it. If you got abandonment issues, you're more likely to FOMO because you are worried about missing out on stuff. Is it a one-to-one? No, but again, I hope that makes sense. If you have trouble setting boundaries with people, if you have trouble saying no, if you're a pleaser, guess what else you're going to have trouble with in trading? Setting stops, because those are boundaries. That's the equivalent of saying no when you don't want to say no. You know how it is, someone asks you for a favor. Oh God, any pickup truck owners out there? I'm so glad I don't own a pickup truck anymore. Everyone and their mother wants you to help them move, especially when you're young. And when you say yes and you don't want to, that's bad boundaries. That's not being able to set limits. That's not setting a stop loss. If you're like that, you're more likely to not respect that kind of stuff and move them or not even set them or whatever BS out there. Obviously, there's like a general self-discipline thing there too. Struggling with emotion dictating your behavior. Because why do you say yes when you want to say no? Because you feel guilty saying no, or you feel scared to say no, whatever, and the emotion wins. Just one little example. These are relatively common, so that's why I'm throwing them out there. The one I just named is not common for like pro traders, Wall Street traders, floor, people at firms, because the different personality types are going to go into those firms. That's another one of the problems with most trading psychology, is that some of these giants, these like brilliant people, like it's cool, it's good stuff, but like they work with pros, they work in places where risk management is taken care of. Like it's managed by the systems and the people that'll shut down the terminals of the traders or whatever. I mean, we have a new breed of people trading these days, and it's not just since COVID. I think I forget what the other big burst of new traders is. Although they say now there's more new traders than COVID. I just read that somewhere, which I found surprising. But anyways, we're not like all those people. And when those people who have those types of histories, they're pros, they're pit trick guys, whatever, it's awesome to listen to their advice, but they have a personality type you probably don't. Because they could go in the pit and do their thing. They can go and trade in front of people and be open to scrutiny and stuff. That stuff's not easy. They might have that type A personality. Frankly, they might have that sociopath personality. It doesn't mean there's like an evil sociopath, but that type of stuff is more likely in those pros, in those market maker types, in those guys cutting deals and executing traders and things like that. And now that we don't have to tolerate any of that, and we can just sit in our we can just sit in our mom's basements and trade or whatever. There's a whole new breed of people in trading psychology, and most trading psychology does not take that into account because it was really based on pros and assuming who the people were coming to the market, and that's just not the case. Does that make sense? I guess I'm not going to wait for responses. Hopefully that makes sense. So schemas. I am sure just reading through that sheet, something's resonating. That's a very brief thing. That's like a. I just skimmed some stuff out of my workshop to give that to you guys. You know, there's a lot more to it, but that's a general idea. And the last thing about schemas, this is important, and then I'll move on. Is they were once functional at some point. Every schema was functional at some point. If you had parents who abandoned you, literally or figuratively, because of alcohol or drugs or narcissism or workaholism or whatever. If you had that, it makes sense for you to expect people not to be there for you, to not trust. It actually is good almost, because not almost, it is good because you lower your expectations and you stop getting upset. But then you got that's when the scheme develops. Or like, even like, if you're criticized and picked on or whatever, and you're abused verbally, whatever, and you have shame and you think you're a shithead, like, at some point when a kid believes that they are a shit or they are stupid or they are no good, that's actually functional, sadly, because they stop getting upset. So rather than, oh my God, I'm a piece of shit, they're just like, yeah, I know, I'm a piece of shit. And as far out as that might sound to some people, that's just how it works. That's survival. But then the schema is baked in. Then we leave the house, we're 18, 19, 20, whatever, or 30 these days, who knows? You leave the house and you now have this system that was built when you were young and you needed this stuff, but now you don't need it anymore. So now it's messing with you. You don't need to think you're a piece of crap because there's no one around you telling you you're a piece of crap all the time. Now you're telling other people you're a piece of crap. Now you're telling it to yourself. So, makes sense why you got to address this stuff. We all got something like that. You got a list there of all 18 schemas. Now, no one escapes scot-free. Even if you had the perfect childhood, then you probably have the entitlement and grandiosity schema. So don't get ahead of yourself. Makes sense. Sounds like it makes sense. This explains much. Oh, I can't read anyone's name. I gotta change my background color. You guys have black text in here. Anyways, glad it explains much, whoever you are. And moving on. So, because schemas are a whole big thing. This clear mindset thing, go back to that page. There's a more in-depth definition. It entails everything that you can use to work on your own independently, on your trading psychology. That was one of the questions I was very interested in, and I'm really curious. I asked you all, or the 29 people who responded, I asked you, do you currently have a structured approach to trading psychology? And 27.6% of you said yes, but I don't stick to it. I want to know, what is your structured approach to trade? Somebody tell me their structured approach to trading psychology. I would love to hear that. Why can't I do a screenshot? Someone tell me their structured approach to trading psychology, because I want to know. But you're going to have one after this. So the first part of the clear mindset, connect to the present moment. That's the C, if you didn't pick up on that, or the CLEAR. Connect is the first C. What is connect to the present moment? I use the phrase mindfulness for that. Some people call it the zone. Some people call it flow. Flow is different, though. And it's not flow. It's different than that. Okay, this hurts because we use the Enneagram. Oh, I see, KT. Well, I yeah, when I asked the question, I was thinking, well, you guys will hear in a sec, or in a little while here, what my plan is, but I'm, like, well, you'll see what I mean. So, connect to the present moment is, that's being mindful, that's self-awareness. I mean, self-awareness is so important as a trader, but it's getting in touch with the present moment. It's what's happening in the here and now. Mental health speak It is the future, when you're not in the present and you're in the future, that generally is anxiety provoking thoughts. How am I going to do this? Should I, when you get off in the future, it's generally anxious thinking. When you start thinking about the past, generally regret, shoulda, woulda, coulda, revenge trade, the other, the thinking of the future stuff is FOMO and, whatever. Now, when you're in the present moment, the idea is that you're not in the past, or you're not in the future, so you're less likely to be swept away by depressive or anxious thoughts. Now, in trading, if you're in the present moment, you're less likely to be, checking old contracts you sold if you're an options trader, or because that's the big. If you are doing that, start working on that tomorrow. You're going through the trash to look at this thing to torture yourself. This thing you don't own anymore, you threw it out, and then you go back and look, and oh my God, now it's blanked out. It was 50 cents, and now it's $5. And so what? You didn't own it. It's irrelevant. You are torturing yourself. You're putting these thoughts in your head, and you're believing these thoughts. You're getting upset about it. Why? What is the desired outcome? What is your goal of that behavior? So anyways, that's one of the benefits of being in the present moment. What's the only present moment on a... KT, I just read it here. Oh snap, it's called Anagram because I don't know anyone in here that's using that. That's funny. Anyways, oh shit, I derailed myself. Oh, what's the only present moment on a chart? What's the present moment on a chart? What's the only thing in real time? I guess there's a couple. Anybody? It's price action. It's the only present moment. All indicators are lagging. Everything else is predicting the future, right? Only present moment you got is price action. So if you can learn to be in the present moment in life, if you can learn to be in the present moment and think and enjoy a dinner with your family versus think about what you're going to do when you're done with dinner. If you can be in the present moment and, watch I think most people, a lot of traders or sports people, you can sit and enjoy a game and the time flies by. Or if you're playing sports, it's like time flies by when you're having fun. That's being in the present moment. Time flies by when you're having fun. That's mindfulness. Mindfulness practice is a way to do it intentionally to get yourself into the present, to build self-awareness. And unlike most people say about mindfulness, it is not to feel better. If anyone tells you mindfulness is to feel better, stop listening to them immediately. At least about this, because they're wrong. It's about getting better at feeling. Mindfulness might make you feel worse, but at least you know the truth. So when you practice mindfulness, you focus on your breath and you get in touch with what's going on. And it's not about clearing your head. It's not about Zen. It's not about having no thought. That's BS. I mean, maybe that's possible. Go move somewhere where you can be a monk and dedicate your life to it. But we can't. This is 2025. We're Westerners. This isn't meditation. This is mindfulness. This is learning how to be in the present moment. You can be mindful and walk. You can be mindful and drive. You can tune in the present moment doing anything. And again, it's not necessarily going to make you feel better. A lot of times that can be the result, but when I do it, sometimes I realize that so I've got some herniated discs in my back. When I do it in the morning, I have a specific regimen in the morning to go through to sort of see if I'm in a good enough mindset to scalp that day, and then if I'm not, I'll just manage swings or whatever, or maybe look for flow or whatever. But anyways, a lot of times when I do mindfulness, I feel worse. I realize, oh my God, my back hurts more than I realized, or oh man, this is really bothering me. Oh, there was someone a friend of mine that I was thinking about the other day, trading, and I realized I felt really guilty for some of the stuff that I had said. About because he was asking for some input on a relationship, and I was like, oh man, I hope I didn't discourage this guy too much or whatever. This is a friend of mine, and like that was actually making me feel guilty in the morning. And like once I knew it, it was fine. I could put it aside, but like I don't want to go in to trading feeling guilty or feeling anything that's bringing more distress and not know where it's coming from and not know what's up, because I can take it out on the market if I don't. Any level of distress. I use a scale called a feel scale. It It runs from -5 to +5 because, as you guys know, I hope, feeling good and too good is just as dangerous as feeling bad in trading. It's just as, it's if not more dangerous than the typical they call them UTBs, unprofessional trading behaviors. FOMO, oversizing, undersizing, all that stuff that we all know about, chasing, revenge trading, blah 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 blah. UTBs, they're all rooted in the same thing for the most part. Not staying out, not keeping yourself out of fight, flight, or freeze, and this is the stuff to be mindful of. And when you can know that you're feeling too good to trade, you have accomplished a big thing. When you know that you're too angry or frustrated or whatever to trade, or too desperate, or your financial situation changed or whatever, and you know it, and you can reflect it, and you can reflect off the third one, embody your core values, which we'll come back to. It can change your behavior. So the more you're in tune with the present, the better off you are, because it just exposes the truth, whether it's good or bad, whether it's wanted or unwanted. Connect to the present moment. Loosen attachment to thoughts and feelings. Now, this is not necessarily in the order you need to do it in. The C is, I guess, but this is a concept. This is really a lifestyle, but the concept is about practice and doing these things. So loosen attachment to thoughts and emotions. People get really caught up in their thesis. That would be a common thought to get caught up in. Politics is one. People get really entrenched in their tribe. We have beliefs about ourselves. I'm awesome, I'm terrible, whatever, and we get attached to those thoughts like they're facts or something. We're a lot of us are really hard on ourselves, and we start striking ourselves out when we have a bad trade. We start speaking negatively towards yourself, or getting frustrated, or whatever it is we might do, or we might take it on other people, who knows. But when we can, people talk about, like, the cliche in trading psychology is like, failure is an opportunity, and blah 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 blah, and that's cool. It is. I mean, that's not wrong. But, like, what do you really do with that information? What you do is, you have this thought, like, I'm a loser, I'm a bad trader, I'm a whatever, and you practice what they call diffusion, and you build the skill of mindfulness up enough where you can see thoughts for what they are, which is temporary and passing phenomenon, not facts. Thoughts are your brain's excrement. All organs excrete. Every organ in your body excretes, and so does your brain. The brain's excrement are thoughts and beliefs, and it's like we when our brain poops them out, like, we turn around and scoop them up and out of the toilet and stick it in our pockets and carry it around with us and wonder why we smell like shit. Well, because we're believing these thoughts and beliefs like they're facts, and they're ruining our lives and ruining our trading, and we're just stuck and fused to them. Another great phrase for diffusion, this cognitive diffusion process that I'm talking about, which is learning to relate to thoughts differently, is deliteralization, deliteralizing thoughts. If you want to practice it right now, whatever you just thought, you say the thought, and you add you add something like this. Say you just had the thought of Sean's a genius. You say, I'm noticing my mind is telling me that Sean's a genius. I'm noticing the thought that Sean's a genius. Doesn't make it fact, doesn't make it true. It gives you a little bit of distance. More probably relatably, pick a negative thought you usually have. I'm a idiot, let's say. I'm noticing the thought that I'm an idiot feels a lot different than, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Or I'm noticing my mind is telling me that I'm an idiot again. Is a lot different than, oh, I'm such an idiot. That's diffused versus fused. Do you hear the difference? And am I answering your question, I can't highlight. The person who asked about the strategies, Vans? Yeah, okay, cool. So you're building a foundation of mindfulness. Here's the thing. This is why I'm saying it's more like lifestyle, because you have to be mindful as you trade. You have to build that skill. Being mindful is a difficult skill to build. You really have to be a practitioner of it. It takes time, but it's well worth the investment. It builds focus and concentration and patience and all kinds of good things. There's a ton of data about how healthy it is for you. It actually makes a part of your brain thicker and denser called the anterior cingulate. It's amazing. That part of your brain helps the two halves of your brain communicate, which regulates your emotions more easily, blah, blah, blah. There's a million reasons to do it. So diffusion is one example of how to loosen those attachments. The mindfulness itself and, building the ability to observe passing phenomenon versus taking it as fact. The phenomenon that's going on inside your skin, meaning thoughts, feelings, urges, sensations, and emotions. So now we're just at embody your core values. This is your why. Why do you trade? Why are you picking the hardest, debatably the hardest profession to succeed at? Why does it mean something to you to do? Who are you doing it for? What are you doing it for in your own life and others? Your why, your values, I refer to it as values. The stuff that's meaningful to you. Family, community, spirituality, education, health, wellness, recreation, vacation, and being able to do stuff and have choices. Money gives you choices. Why are you trading? Yeah, we all want to make money, but why? What are you going to do with it? And why does it matter to you? And if you can start to bring that into the present moment, it's going to influence your decisions. Because I'll tell you what, if you're taking a zero DTE or some Friday expiring option, it's low probability, and you're putting too much money in it, if you have this model in mind, if you use this clear mindset, if you practice it, at some point, you're going to think about your kids before you take that stupid ass zero DTE or short dated trade. And you imagine their eyes and telling them, oh, I just lost a grand of your college fund because I wanted to gamble. That can change your behavior. You visualize that, you're going to feel differently than if you don't. This is modern risk management. Look, I work with some pros. Like I work with people like a actual prop firm person, like a physical prop firm. Retired hedge fund guy, like another pro. These guys. I've never talked to about risk management to any of them ever. It's built in. It's baked in. They're pros. It's been beat into them. It's the screen traders that I have to hammer with it. And we don't have the luxury of having other people handle it for us. We don't get or the pressure, social pressure. If I'm a pro, I don't want to get embarrassed by risk management and have my terminal shut down. I don't want to get called out. I don't want to get yelled at by my boss. I don't want to experience those things, so I'm not going to do it. I want to brag to my people I'm trading with. So, I'm not going to trade like a wanker. And nowadays, there's some nerd in the basement coding things and managing your risk for you anyways. So we have to develop the equivalent consequences. We don't have that. We're not in that environment. So what's the consequence? Working against your value, doing things that aren't important, doing things that are not in the best interest of what you actually care about. But here's the rub. You actually pay attention to it and think about it versus avoid it like 95% of the population. Now, this is where it's mental health and trading they're just synonymous. Avoidance is a human characteristic. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. In fact, we need to do it sometimes. But we need to not avoid these things so that we can have and actually respect our rules, because we know that respecting our rules is respecting our wife, our kids, our husband, our community, our church, or whatever I care about, my future. And when I'm more conscious of that intraday, again, it's going to influence your behavior one way or another. And you can harness it for good, or you can ignore it and then beat yourself up with it after you stop ignoring it. questions before I move on? Next part is accept all the present moment offers. Any questions? I don't see any typing. All right. You have a longer explanation there, right? But acceptance is, it's being willing to experience what's going on, even if you don't want it. Most traders don't like chop, or at least fast chop. I know you mean reversion folks are into it, but we can be mad at how the market's behaving. A lot of people are mad at how the market's behaving since President Trump was inaugurated and whatnot. Like the tariff stuff. And obviously, it's tricky being sensitive to news again. It's also, if you traded during his first term, you're used to him more. He was more of a, well, I guess he did cause plenty of drops, but he was more of a pumper. And now it's very tricky. So, anyways, can you accept that, or are you going to blame Trump at the end of the day? Are you going to blame Powell? You're going to blame Yellen? You're going to blame Fed speaker, blah, 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 because you either didn't prepare and know they were going to speak and got yoinked, or you did, and here you are with the boogeyman to blame for your shitty trading. It's the market maker. Those greedy market makers. Like, you want to talk about beta behavior in terms of all these people now that are into beta alpha nonsense. By the way, all that stuff came from chicken research. Not exactly the coolest thing in the world to be alpha, like is put out there. But anyways, pecking order is where all that came from. Anyways, the people who accept are always in a better position. People who can be flexible, because what does it lead to? It leads to accountability. If I put money in the market, I know the market's. You can say the market's rigged all you want. Fine, it is. I know there's corruption. I know there's insider trading. I mean, everyone sees some crazy flow that comes in 3 minutes before close, and the next thing you know, there's news. I don't know how every one of those people aren't arrested, but anyways, we all see it. We all get bad fills, all that stuff. But how much how much time do you waste blaming? How much time do you waste blaming? And you know what? How much of a fucking child are you acting like when you do that? This is me stepping out of therapist into coach. Because, come on. Kids wish, not adults. Wishing is for children. That's what we do. If only. Powell, shut up. Powell should have ended the presser earlier. Yellen should keep shut. Trump needs to make up his mind on tariffs, whatever. You chose to be in this. Suck it up, buttercup. And the issue is, it's not about me. It's not about me yelling at you guys. Not that I am, but it's about, if you can't accept, you can't move on. The greatest cornerbacks in the world all get beat. Darrelle Revis gave up TDs. Champ Bailey, depending on how old you are, or whoever, I guess the best is now. But whatever, they all gave up. But you know what? They have a short memory, and they go out and they, make the next play. But now, generally speaking, sports analogies are not great for trading, but you get my point. If you don't accept, you don't move on. You blame, and you're not accountable. And acceptance is not fun. Being willing is not fun. Accepting stuff you don't like isn't fun, but we all have to do it. You can't. If you can go and get. This is getting dark. Sorry, but I'm a therapist. That happens. You go to the doctor. You get diagnosed with cancer. You have to accept it. You cannot accept it and not tell anybody and not get treatment and die horribly, or you can accept the horribleness and deal with it. I'm sorry for the dark example, but it's the same thing on a smaller scale. We're not accepting what's going on in the market. We don't like it, or we think it should be doing this or that. Or I love when I read, it's bullshit that this is happening. What are you talking about? you're whatever. It's just a waste of time, and it's a poor mindset. It's an unrealistic mindset. It's a unrealistic mindset. It's an unaccountable mindset. It's a child's mindset, in my opinion. Not that we all don't act like kids here and there. I mean, we all think farts are funny or act immature once in a while or gossip. I mean, we all do it, but it's going to be expensive when you're doing it as a trader. So the last part, respond with decisive, informed action. That's sort of taking those first four and doing what you got to do. Cut that trade. Eat the loss. Or look at it as an expense of cost of doing business, like paying your electric bill if you had a brick and mortar. Work on the mindset for it. Oh my God, I've already been talking an hour. Serve your values when you make that decisive, informed decision. It feels better when you have a day where you ticked off a bunch of things on your list, got stuff done, worked the honeydew list, did some yard work, uh, whatever, did crocheting or sewing, whatever you're into. Got shit done, son. You feel better. It's because you're serving your values. You just don't use that language or think about the process. So think about the process and serve your values with your trading. Why trade low probability, bad, risky trades when they screw over the people you love and make the future you want less probable? You're supposed to be a probabilistic thinker. That's your risk manager. Oh, if I do this, I am not serving my kids' best interest. I am not serving my long-term best interest. I am not, doing what's right for future me. Whatever, however you want to look at it, it's cool. But all this takes practice, and you notice the theme here. It's all built around mindfulness and self-awareness, leaning into discomfort. If you can't be uncomfortable, you're never going to be a good trader. If you can't, feel that urge, that itch, and be bored, and just still not take the trade or walk away or whatever it is, that's being talented. That's exercising, professional trading behavior, so to speak. People you just hear it in these cliches like, cash is the position and no trade is a good trade. No shit. But how do you do it? This is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how to take cliches from those pop trading psychology accounts with 400,000 followers or something, and actually make some use out of it. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. I didn't go through these as I did this. I apologize. I'm going to run through these just for the video so people can pause, but I pretty much talked about this stuff, I think. Tactical breathing, grounding. That's part of my system, is deciding which one you need to use. And that's based on the feel score. But basically, tactical breathing is a way to get yourself out of fight, flight, or freeze. And it's some stuff that's got data behind it. Loosen attachment to thoughts. I talked about diffusion. I talked about schemas. Boy, this would have been a lot easier if I did this. I had my prompts in front of me. Embody. I talked about your why, values and long-term decisions, or chasing validation. That's a little too specific. I actually meant to edit that out. Chasing validation versus strategic execution. But not that that's not relevant. It's just kind of specific. And what I mean by pre-trade value alignment is, in the morning, part of my routine, I have this thing called the sound psych process, 4-step process. And part of it is I look through meso, macro, and micro psychological issues. and micropsych is like the stuff that most of us are talking about. FOMO and anxiety and mindset and stuff, and meso is like what's going on in your family, your partner, and macro is like, yeah, you got job stress, you got life stress, you got are you moving, are you getting divorced, are you someone die recently, is the political climate tough on the market right now? Yes, it is. Like whatever. And that's not a part. I'm not saying that in a partisan way. I'm just saying that's assessing psychological macros. Macro and micro is not just economics. And if you go to my blog, actually, if you guys DM me, I can send you a link. But on my website, on my blog, you can get the sheet that has all the meso, macro, micro psych stuff. But anyways, oh, he's gonna email us. Yeah. So whoever, sorry, I can't read names. What was the chasing validation versus strategic execution explanation? The explanation is I was I was being too specific in that example, and I meant to delete it. But what it could mean is I want to post the banger instead of take the best trade. It could be I want to prove to my wife that I can freaking make money, and I'm going to take this trade versus trading most effectively, or prove to my husband that whatever. I know that I can't remember what the lady's name was who answered the first question, Blair. But anyways, that type of thing. So it was just too specific. I meant to rule it out. That would be something like there's a schema called attention and recognition seeking, and like in my workshop, I assess all those in everybody, and so if you had a high score in that, like you'd have to be careful of that one. If you had a high score in like shame or defective, like shame is another way of saying I feel defective or like there's something wrong with me or I'm broken. Like you might chase validation versus a good trade because you want to be able to, be the cool guy in honeycomb options and show off your trade versus, show a banger versus like wait on something or whatever. That kind of thing, for example. And that is, yeah, we all can do that. Awareness, this self-awareness stuff I'm talking about, it isn't just, while you're trading, it's while you're in Discord, it's while you're in, this realm. I mean, this stuff, some people are inspired by gains. Some people are, lack of a better word, triggered. You got to figure out who you are, and if you are, and if you should look at that stuff or not. You got to know. Every environment's going to affect it. If there's someone, if there's, not saying this room, but there's someone that annoys you, mute the motherfucker. Pardon my f bombs. I do tend to swear a lot. I need to work on that. I've come to realize my East Coast ways don't always jive with my Midwest clientele. A lot of my clients are in Texas too. Anyways, digress. So I already went over this. Accept a love present moment has to offer. Respond with decisive action. The observing adult report. So it's part of this 4-step process. Let's see here. I want to do a Q. I want to finish this up and do a Q&A. Whoever said BU, thank you. B Diddley. Yeah, those are a little over specific too. I probably should have changed these for this exercise, but I went over the responding. It's using those first 4 steps and like taking that information and responding in a way that's congruent with all that information. What's congruent? Am I triggered? Is this a schema activated? Am I, tilted because of this? Am I in the moment? All these things you with this 4-step process here, you can really start to learn, pay attention to, and this is what I can say. or guarantee, because you can never guarantee trading outcomes, right? If you implemented this kind of stuff, your life's going to be different. If you implement this kind of stuff, your trading is going to be different because you're acting in a way that's in service to to what matters to you. And intraday, you're doing things to increase the probability that you are in this in the moment, self aware, values serving state. Because if you are, you reduce the probability of fight, flight, or freeze, you reduce the probability of trading like a butthead, and you increase the probability of bringing the person you are and the person you want to be and be a reflection of the things you care about in your trading career. And that's what's going to influence your behavior. It's not going to be, I'm nursing to be more disciplined. How? Discipline's like one of the it's so one of the most misunderstood, mischaracterized thing. I mean, I've worked with dudes that are like built like a brick shithouse, like cut from stone, muscle, discipline, gym, exercise. They can't be disciplined for shit when it comes to trading because the why is different. So all these people that want to go out there and tell you that, if you're disciplined in one realm, it's going to transfer. It could, but not always. Your discipline for, the gym might be, the why for the gym might be something very different than why you're trading. The discipline for your eating habits might be very different from why you're trading, and so on and so forth. I think you get the gist. So it has to be more than just, I gotta be more disciplined. Saying discipline is like being like, I got a skyscraper. I gotta build this skyscraper. Discipline is the result of a lot of other things. It's the sum of a very complicated math problem. It's not a thing that you can just go out and do. You want to be disciplined, follow the clear mindset. You practice the clear mindset. Your discipline will increase. You won't always be disciplined because who's always disciplined? But it'll increase because you're more in touch with what matters. It's the end result. It's a skyscraper. You point to this skyscraper and like, oh, it's discipline. Well, what is discipline made up of? It's made up of iron beams and girders and hot bolts, whatever those are called, and that's driving me crazy. I can't think of that right now. And cement and cinder blocks and even more, and the sand off the beach that makes the fucking cement and the lime that was pulled out of the ore to mix into the Portland cement mix and is now up in the building. It is granular discipline. It is not just something you can be more or less of. It's the result of the clear mindset. It's the result of a lot of other things.